Hello! Not long ago I did a sort of first look at the TBS Mambo, which is the radio with a tracer module built in, although you can buy the tracer module separately. So today I wanted to have a look with something that goes with it, which is the Tracer 69, which is both a tracer receiver and a VTX in a single board. And just looking in here, there's lots of very small bits, so let's go straight to close up, we'll get it out, have a look what's involved in putting it together, put it in a quad, see how we set up things on the radio and stuff, and hopefully we'll be able to go out and fly it and see how it feels. Okay, let's see what's inside the packet. Quite a bit. So here is the main board, and this is smaller than expected, I have to say. What we're seeing here is a 20 by 20 mounting holes. We've got UFL connectors there for the tracer antenna, one here for the 5.8 antenna. We've got a big connector to do everything, or we've got solder pads on the bottom there. And that big connector looks like this, so we'll obviously just plug in there, but we're looking at that. We get the antenna here for the tracer, as you can see much smaller than your equivalent crossfire antenna because it's 2.4 and that's much smaller. And you also get this other UFL connector that goes to an SMA adapter to go out to your VTX antenna, which isn't supplied. There are 4 screws here. This is going to come into what's in this little bag here. So you have 2 options. Well, you have 3 options actually. You can just mount this as is. Now TBS give you an optional sort of tin shield if you want to use that, but you've got several ways of mounting it. On the first one, if you're going to use the shield, it would look like that, then that bit goes there. I had the bottom piece and slightly wrong, but yeah, that would go, you'd screw these things into it if you want to hold it together, and you could mount that directly on your frame using some double-sided tape. Now with this one I don't see you being able to put this in a regular stack as is because these screw holes look a bit small, but there is this thing as well. It's a bit fiddly to put in because you've got to push this under the little notches, but you can mount it like this in your regular 30.5mm stack. So yeah, several options there. You can definitely use the shield with the thing and mount it in a 20mm stack. With this, mount it in a 30mm stack, and with the bottom piece you can just mount it directly to a frame. All good news so far. So I just need to see what I can put this on, because I'm not sure. This is pretty thin, so it's not like it's going to take up a huge amount of space. So I'm going to look for something interesting that I can get this into now. Okay, just been looking at quads on the wall, and I found this one that I haven't flown for a while. This is a really nice quad actually. It's the Holybro Coppice 2. Flies really nicely. The stuff from Holybro is often quite nice. And I think, looking at that full-size VTX up there, and when I put this down, I reckon that will fit under there. So this is what I'm going to put the TBS 69 into, and I'm going to be using this existing SMA and then taking the tracer antenna either up through here or down there along the legs or something along those lines. Yeah, I'll be using this and the tin shield. So here I've got in front of me the board I'm going to use. This is a Kakute F7. This connection here is the existing VTX one. That's the camera, so we've got ground and power, video out and smart audio, and then in the receiver we've got the normal 5V ground, and we've got smart telemetry and S-bus in, so that's going to move around a little bit. But on here there's so many cables but not all that many we need. If we just go through them, we've got power in, which can be from 5.5 to 36 volts, and then there's the ground. Then we've got next on this orange cable a 5V out and a ground to go with it. So if you're going to power your camera via that, those are the ones to use. Then more usefully we've got the video in, and next to that a white one we've got audio in, not to be confused with smart audio. I'm trying to do this one-handed to try and get this One wire out the way, hang on. The next step, we've got another ground, although I presume grounds would be shared, I'll double check that. And finally, we've got the RX and TX, which we obviously need to run Tracer. So really, we only need those two for the power, that one for the video, and those two. The others can come out. Weirdly, in this one, I was looking for ages to say, well, where do you connect smart audio? What's going on? There's some other pads on the back, but these are more about for using other outputs on Tracer, like you would if you wanted to drive like for PWM. So this doesn't actually support smart audio, unless I've completely got that wrong. But everything I seem to read on it suggests it doesn't, and you have to pretty much run the Agent X light on your radio to change channels and stuff, which is a bit weird. I kind of figured everything would use smart audio, especially from TBS, but this one apparently not. Anyway, I'm going to hook these guys up, cut these cables down, get rid of the ones I don't need, and install it. Okay, we've gone ahead and we've done a temporary install. You can see at the moment I've got just things flicking about where I'm not sure what's going to happen. A little bit of an issue there because the previous one had a long SMA which you'd screw in. This one I'm going to either have to sort of solder the two ends or glue them or something. But I just needed to power this up to get the tracer module working. It said in the TBS manual, in order to bind it first time, I should just put the radio into bind mode and then plug this in. So that's what I'm going to try. I've got the radio here, so what you just need to do is go into TBS Agent Light, and with the tracer, and we're going to go into bind mode. So execute that, and then here I've just got this little small battery, and I haven't plugged this in yet, so hopefully it won't go up in smoke. Oh, I just noticed I still had a prop on there. Anyway, that's still in bind mode. Here's a little 3S battery, which I'm just going to pop in, which I won't be able to film because I'm holding it this flame with one hand. So that is plugged in. It still says binding in progress. Okay, you joined us slightly stripped down again while I was trying to figure out what was happening. I wasn't getting a voltage through here, but what was happening, I was plugging in and it wasn't initializing correctly, so it wasn't powering up. I don't know if this is down to a connection here, which I'm going to have a look at, but in the meantime, it seemed to power up okay, and then we had a flashing light on here, which seemed good. So I'm going to plug it in again. I'm going to pop this back in bind and see if it actually works, because last time, of course, it just wasn't powered up. So let's plug in again. So we've got flashing lights there. It says binding in progress there. But it doesn't seem to be happening. Now it did say if this didn't work for any reason. Oh, hang on. It has worked. Update. Would you like to update? Yes, yes we will. Why not? Update micro TX. So it's doing an over-the-air update to the TX, which is flashing away quite happily. I do remember one or two little weirdness on the coppice where it just wouldn't power up sometimes. I'm looking at that and I'm thinking that's a little bit dry on the solder joint there. It's kind of hidden because it's got some covering there, but yeah, the other side I'm just going to apply a little bit more solder to it, see if that's okay. But this is actually all wired fine, it would seem. It was just having a problem with a connection, it would appear. Anyway, how are we getting on here? Updating. Don't intervene. Bind. Oh, where's it gone? Binding in progress, binding okay. So we've got dynamic power on, which is good.
RF signal critical.
Probably a bit close. Video TX wise. VTX control RX. TX. So let's put this onto race 1 at 25 milliwatts, and I can easily check that. It should be that one there. Oh, save setting, continue, saved. Nope. Just search. Well, that's not the best quality picture I've ever seen, I have to admit. Okay, this looks better. And what was the problem? You could probably see it if you looked very closely. That was not quite pushed in all the way, so it was only half a picture, but that looks fine. That's on R1, as we've done through the radio. If I fiddle the sticks, you can see in beta flight we're getting good stuff through there. So I'm just going to finish setting this up, and then you know, obviously I'll take a quick test hover in the garden, because I had to update the software from a really early beta flight, like 3.4 something, 3.2 up to 4.2.9, so that's quite a jump. So I just need to check that everything's okay. Oh, there's my hand. Anyway, I'll get this all put back together. We'll decide where this is going to go and where that's going to go and how it's going to attach, and yeah, get on with it. Who'd have thunk it? We're in, well, early October and the sun's out. It's not particularly high in the sky. I'm squinting my eyes off here, even in sunglasses, but you know, it's not raining, it's not windy. So let's test out the tracer system. We're testing specifically the TBS Tracer 69. We've hooked up the tracer part of it. Haven't really tested the VTX out, so what I'll be doing is going from 25 milliwatts and whacking the power up a bit, and this is all set through the radio, so you won't be able to see anything on the on-screen display. And this is very much part 2 of the Mambo test as well, as the tracer module's built in. You'll see no external antennas or anything. So it'd be good to see if we've got reasonable range on this one. It's not a quad I'd really take very far anyway. I haven't got that much room here, but we'll be checking out, see what happens. This is pretty reflective, but if we go here into the TBS Agent Light, what we then get is a section for the TBS 69. And this is really the right place to do the RX stuff. As you see, we're set to race 1, 25 milliwatts, and we can just come along here and change the power as we want to. But let's stick to 25, see how it does first, and have a fly.
So here we go for our first flight, and my main thing here is try not to crash, because I've been pretty out of practice, especially flying faster 5-inch quads. I haven't really touched much, so if it looks a little bit gingerly as I'm going along, that's why. As per usual, I've got all 3 settings here. I've got the LQ, the DBM and the RSSI. DBM, I just don't understand it. People will say in the comments, you just need to look for this value, but no, it's not. It doesn't feel sensible to me, so I think I'm going to get rid of it. Ditto with the raw RSSI, which is rubbish. LQ is interesting because it's both different from what you'd expect in Crossfire, and it's different from ELRS, which I've been using a lot lately. So in Crossfire, you go for also from 0 to 2 before the colon, which will give you the data rate of what's happening. In Tracer, you've got this single 250 Hz data rate, so it's always going to be 1, and then you've got the actual LQ, your link quality, which is sticking pretty high to 100. I just see it flicker there to 95. This is on 25 milliwatts VTX power, and I think it's doing a pretty good job. I'm not doing anything too outrageous. We've got reasonable line of sight, but we're coming around some trees and stuff, and the picture's looking pretty good, I have to say. I'm pretty impressed with that. I'm not taking it out too far because I'm still sort of feeling my way round. So what I decided to do was land, change the milliwatts to 400 milliwatts as there wasn't a 200 one, and had another flight to see what happened then. Okay, so here we go, 400 milliwatts instead of 200. My altitude's gone all a bit weird on the barometer there, so ignore that bit. But yeah, let's try and go out a bit further. That was my general gist of what I'm trying to do here. I've got kind of clearish route to get to about 1 kilometre in this direction, but I start sort of feeling some flickers here, and I'm thinking that's a little bit weird. Why is that happening now? So I sort of turn myself around just to check things out and see if I need to get lined up a little bit better. And you can see down there that, yeah, I'm kind of a little bit in line with those trees. You can just see them in the corner of that field. That's causing perhaps a bit of interference. So what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll try and line myself up a little bit better, so I'm not sort of immediately literally stood behind those trees, because they're pretty close to me, so they kind of act as a sort of instant block. So what I'm doing is sort of getting behind myself, and I'm looking at a line where it's going to be sort of a straight shot out this way. So let's try that again. This is not normally a distance I would want to go without having some sort of rescue mode, like a GPS or something along those lines. But these are fields I'm in control of, as it was. I've got permission specifically to fly over these. So if it goes down, I've at least got no access problems getting to them. How wet they are is another question. If this went down, one of my worries is always the fact that it would just completely bury in the mud, so I won't be able to find it at all. And you'll see here that we've got absolutely no change in the LQ. So that edge of that field, just where it sort of becomes a sort of more beige colour, is about 1100 metres. So by getting up to here, we've done a kilometre, and the net result is we've got a stronger signal as when we started, and even turning round, changing the position of the antennas essentially makes absolutely no odds. Good picture as well from the VTX, that's absolutely no problem there. All is good. I've no doubt you could take this thing an awful long way, but yeah, it's quite a surprise to get almost zero change on the LQ, but of course it is on dynamic power. I don't know if this means it's trying to up the power as we go, because I kind of figured what would happen is like the signal would fall off and it would try upping the power, but essentially I don't know. Basically it's just, yeah, it's solid all the way. There's been no change, absolutely fine, everything is good. Now, of course, one of the other things Tracer will do is give a very low latency on your controls. It's a bit like Crossfire except for 2.4. This is always really hard to test unless you've literally got sort of an S-Bus receiver and then you put a CRSF receiver in and fly it one after the other. I did that with the original Crossfire. It really does make a difference, and I was really surprised because I'm not, any sort of racer. I'm a sort of a casual freestyle flyer, and I didn't think I would feel the difference, but you really can. I couldn't say I felt it in this because I couldn't do that comparison. In this last battery, I'm kind of throwing it around a bit more, and this is my sort of go-to thing to see how things react. I sort of go into sort of fast split S's and lots of whizzy turns and stuff. And it felt very reactive, but at the same time, I've been flying Crossfire and Express LRS, and these also have very low latency rates, so it didn't feel any different. You'd really need to go and compare it with an S-Bus receiver, like your standard FreeSky XM Plus or something. That's when you'll really notice a difference. But if you've been flying very similar things, then it's not going to feel particularly different. But yeah, it feels nicely locked in. The quad felt very responsive. By battery number 3, I was finding like, yeah, I'm remembering how to fly a bit better now. That was something at least. Anyway, yeah, had a really good time. Just flying around, having some good fun, and I didn't ever have to worry about the signal, and from the VTX point of view, it looked really good as well. There it is, there's the quad, and there you could just see how small that antenna is and what a great signal you get just from that. Pretty amazing. It all fits together lovely. I really did enjoy flying the squad again. I don't know why it took me so long to fly it again. Also found that little power thing I had was down to, where is it? It's basically where the ESC just here plugs into the main board. There seemed to be a loose connection there, so that ESC voltage wasn't going through, and that was causing it not to power up sometimes. Anyway, that's all fixed, and that was looking good. I suppose the big question is, why would you choose Tracer over something like Express LRS? And we're also talking about the Mambo, of course, which has the built-in Tracer. It's going to be different for everybody. Looking at how it is at the moment, I would say that the TBS, the way of doing things is slightly more user-friendly. The first time we bound this, the radio said, would you like to update the receiver? And we say yes, and it just happens. Express LRS has a slightly more in-depth flashing thing that you need to do every time you're going to use like a new module or a new receiver, which is a little bit more involved, but you get good results. I think it's going to depend on the user. It's kind of like some people are in the sort of TBS camp, some people are in the open source camp, and for other people, seeing that configurator for ERS and watching the flash stuff is like, oh, that's too much for me. But so it's going to depend very much on how comfortable you are. As far as the radio goes, I've really been liking this, and I've been using this for Express RS as well. Just on that day I was flying a couple of other quads, and I was using the Namimno module in the back of this, and it works fantastically. And if you want to, you can shove a Crossfire module in the back as well. It's got full-size JR module, so I haven't got a problem. I didn't expect that, the fact this doesn't have any sort of external receiver, I wasn't expecting to get that sort of signal. I mean, I only went a kilometre,
but like the LQ didn't change. It just felt like you could just keep going and going and going, which is a great thing. And there is a mod. It's listed in the PDF instructions for this radio. If you want to put an external antenna on it, you can. It tells you how to open it up and do all that. So that's very nice. This has been my go-to radio just lately, because the fact it doesn't have any bits externally stick out means it's really easy to pack. There's still, you know, the potential of hitting switches and that, but as long as you're reasonably careful about putting that in, that's all good. It'd be nice when this goes off of Freedom TX and goes on to proper Open TX or Edge TX or something. So, you know, it's not some special offshoot just for TBS. That'd be quite nice. But yeah, aside from those things, it's like nice system. But it's going to be down to you what you like. Are you going to be sort of in the TBS camp and you'll be opting for something like, you know, a Mambo radio and the Tracer stuff, or are you going to want the sort of full open source of Express RLS, and then you might want to buy a completely different radio and a different module and all sorts? That much is up to you, of course. Anyway, once again, a big thanks to Gaff at YourFPV. He sent over the radio and the Tracer 69. You can find links down below for his shop. If you're in the UK, you can obviously get stuff nice and quick and not have to wait from China. Anyway, I hope that review's been helpful, and I will catch you soon. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.